Thank you for joining Pioneer. I'm Chris with Norman Public Library Central, and this class is for those of you who want to learn how to program for one of these or one of these. You need to know this, the Swift computer programming language developed by Apple. First things first, if you're using a Mac, you should go out to the App Store and download Xcode. It's a free download, but you'll need an Apple account to create it. Pause this video and come back once you've got Xcode. If you don't have a Mac, you need to find one of the free online Swift interpreters. I'll list a couple on the screen here. If you're using Xcode, you need to go to the File menu and choose New Playground. You'll create a new blank playground for Mac OS and click Next. You can call your playground whatever you want. I'll call it First Lesson. Doesn't really matter where you put it. And then click Create. And congratulations, Xcode has given you a playground. It's even put 2 lines of code for you. The first one, line 1, says import cocoa. Unfortunately, this does not have anything to do with chocolate. It has to do with bringing in the software that you're going to need eventually to talk to the various parts of your iPhone or iPad or Mac. We won't worry about that line right now. We're just going to leave it alone. On line 3, you see the word var, which is short for variable, and then a name for the variable. They've given it the very creative name stir. I'm not sure how they expect you to pronounce that, and frankly, it's not a very good variable name. We are making the variable stir, which is a storage location, equal to the literal string hello, playground. When I say literal string here, I mean some words surrounded by double quotes. The double quotes tell Swift not to try to understand what's in between the double quotes, but just literally store that string or that set of letters into a thing called stir. Later on in my program then, I could add another line of code that said, for example, print stir. If I run my code now by clicking the play button in the playground, or if you're using one of the online interpreters, there will be a run button or a play button someplace on your screen. If I run this code right now, the Swift interpreter will look at this and say, oh, I will run your code. It creates a variable called stir and puts hello playground into it. And then it runs line 4, print stir. And down here at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the output from your code. It's not very exciting just yet. So let's store some other kinds of information. I'll give myself a couple of blank lines because Swift doesn't care how many blank lines you put up here. And I'll create a new variable. I'm going to call it my name. And you can probably guess what I'm going to put in it. Now, because I paused typing, you can see that Swift is immediately yelling at me. It says, type annotation missing in pattern. Probably this means your computer is about to light on fire and burn your house down. Well, maybe not. What it means is you stopped typing before you finished coding, and Swift would really like you to finish writing this line of code. So we'll see this a lot as we work in Swift. Don't worry about all of the errors that pop up while you're working. We only worry about the errors that appear when we're done. So I'll create a variable called my name, and I'm going to say that my name is equal to Chris. Now what you should have noticed is that as soon as you started typing in after the first double quote, Swift automatically typed the second double quote for you. You always have to have double quotes surrounding your string. If you leave one of them off, Swift will definitely yell at you. It says unterminated string literal. Unterminated means you haven't finished it, so terminate it. Also not as exciting as it sounds. And now the compiler is happy with you. Later on in our code, we could print out that string. You can see that as I am typing in Swift, the compiler is automatically trying to help me type and trying to fill things in for me. I want you to be very careful using this feature right now when you're first learning Swift. It's a very powerful tool. It's incredibly useful later on. But for now, a lot of times the autocomplete is going to autocomplete things that you don't want it to autocomplete. What is mock memory info name Max Len and why do I care? Well, the answer is I don't care. So we'll ignore that and just print out our name. So once again, I can click my play button here. And sure enough, it now prints out hello playground and then my name. Hopefully you typed your name instead of Chris here, unless your name is Chris, in which case congratulations on having the best name. You can use variables to store more than just string literals. For example, you could store a number. You'll notice that when I stored the number, I did not put double quotes around it. I don't want to store the character 4 and the character 2 as part of a string. I want to store the number, the idea of 42 things, so that later on I could do math with it. For example, in my print statement, I could tell it to print out 2 times 42. If I run my code now, sure enough, the computer is capable of calculating that 2 times 42 is 84. You have lots of different math operators that you can put in Swift. You saw me use the asterisk to do multiplication. Of course, addition is just your plus sign. Subtraction is your minus sign. Division is your slash or solidus if you're being fancy. And multiplication, of course, is your asterisk. Swift is yelling at me, of course, because I've just put a whole bunch of math up here and I didn't put it someplace where I was allowed. What I could have done instead was put 2 slashes ahead of it. The 2 slashes tell Swift to ignore everything else on the line. So I can type whatever I want. So there. And Swift will never yell at me because Swift doesn't care about anything after the slashes. Okay, that's your basic introduction to variables in Swift. Of course, there is much more that we'll cover next time, but your first challenge as you are learning Swift is I would like you to make a variable with your name and a variable with your contact information, and then I want you to print out a fancy-looking business card onto the screen, okay? At the beginning of next lesson, I'll show you how I accomplished this task. Until then, thanks for joining me, and have a great day.